Welcome to the worst nightmare of all. Reality.
Explore the lesser-known stories of our unknown world. Join the pursuit of the paranormal with Ash and Greg.
Hello, Ashley. How are you doing?
Hello, Gregory. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good, thanks. It's supposed to be the start of spring and it's been raining all day. And
I know I'm going camping in a couple of days. I'm looking at the weather. It's like, for fuck's sake. But hopefully it'll clear up a bit.
It's going to get better over the weekend. It's going to be like up to decent temperatures. So
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. So today we are doing something a little bit different. I don't know. I don't know if you would call it a little bit different. And we're going to talk about artificial intelligence.
Indeed.
And for people that don't know much about it, because there will be some people who haven't sort of, artificial intelligence and AI has been massive over the last couple of years, and particularly this year with ChatGPT primarily being sort of the front runner of all the artificial intelligence. Yeah. So to frame that a little bit better, so ChatGPT is some software that's been written by a load of super intelligent people to try and have this computer, or whatever you want to call it, it's almost like an entity, which we can get onto later as well, about anything. So you can ask it, and it's a better version of Google. So you can ask it to do something for you, and it tells you how to do it. I've used it out where I work. We use Dynamics 365 by Microsoft, and there's certain things that I need to know how to do. And I've asked ChatGPT, how do I do this particular thing? And I say, I'm on this screen, I'm using this version, what do I do? And instead of Google, where you'll have like hundreds of millions of responses and you've got to try and pick one that you think is right, ChatGPT like personalizes the response to you and says, right, you need to do this, 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 and this. Yeah. Which, when I've tested it out, it all worked properly. And it was much better than Google. It was much easier, and it does it within seconds. And you can literally ask it anything. And you can ask it to do stuff, or you can ask it to tell you how to do stuff. It's insane, basically.
It is. And like, obviously, we won't go too deep into obviously the whole science and technology side of it, because that's a bit too above our heads and kind of off topic a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
But what we're going to be talking about is the use of AI within the paranormal.
Yeah.
And on the note of ChatGPT, I thought while we're doing an episode about talking about AI, I thought I'd actually use the software to formulate the episode for us. So it basically went on ChatGPT and explained who we are and what we were doing. We're going to do this episode, Paranormal Podcast. I'm going to be doing this episode talking about the use of AI in paranormal investigations. And I asked it to give us some topics that we could talk about. So we're going to let AI formulate the episode, give us the sort of headlines for each sort of section, and we'll talk about that and see how that goes and see if it gives us a good episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Talking about itself, pretty much.
Yeah. I've also, before we start, yesterday, so Sunday, I asked ChatGPT to write a horror story for us. And I said, it needs to be written as though it was written by a poltergeist. I'll tell you the exact wording. Let me find it now. I went on to ChatGPT and I said, write me a horror story whereby here we go. The exact wording was, can you write me an article for me if I explain what I would like? And it comes back and says, of course. So I asked, do you understand how to write an article as though it was written by a ghost? And it said, yes, I understand. And I won't read the whole thing, but it says, yeah. And it explains how it would write it as though it was a ghost. So I said, I would like it written about how a haunting starts with a knocking on the wall and how this accelerates to a point where physical manifestations are taking place. And lo and behold, it writes a horror story beginning with some noises on a wall written in the third person as though there's a haunting taking place. Now, for anybody who's interested in reading that, I actually put it up on the blog page of our website yesterday. So check it out, see what you think. And considering that was all I gave it as prompts, and then you read it and you think, wow, a computer program has written that one off. It's a unique story. And you would be hard pressed to tell that it was written by anything other than a human. So check out. I just wanted to throw that in there because me and Ash have discussed ChatGPT many times. I listen to ChatGPT podcasts all the time, and there's loads of it about at the moment, and it's just a fascinating subject. Hence why we're talking about it today.
I mean, I think people are starting, especially the past couple of months, be aware of the actual sort of capabilities, but I still think people don't understand how world changing is actually going to be. I mean, we mainly use 3.5, which is like the free version, the basic free version, and then you can pay and have access to sort of the next version.
Yeah.
Which didn't come that long after 3.5, but it's exponentially better. Like the sort of the knowledge, for a better word, and the way it processes and the way it understands. It's just in just a couple of months, it's just jumped up so many leaps and bounds, and like it's going to be hard because, like I say, you can use it for work. The stuff that in my job I could definitely use it for. I do use it quite a lot just for sort of personal stuff, but you can definitely introduce, and you can see where I can see people's jobs in just my office where that can do their job. Like they could do it now, like, and it wouldn't cost the company anything to have like this machine doing it. And I think that's obviously, I mean, the whole industry will create more jobs.
Yep.
In that sector, but obviously it's more specially trained and type of work, more skilled work. But it's going to be definitely replace a lot of types of jobs that a lot of robots are sort of taking over jobs now. And then this is the more intelligent side of robotics, where we've got the robot side of it that can do a lot of the sort of scanning and that sort of automated stuff. Now we've got stuff that can do the intelligent side of it, where you usually have to have a human brain behind it. Now, in the next couple of years, you're not going to need that anymore. It's going to be developed that much that it's just going to replace so many things. And I think one sort of field that's going to really struggle is academia.
Yeah.
Where you can write a story and it literally 5 minutes and you've done your homework. If that was like a homework that was set.
Yeah.
If you apply that to obviously college courses, university courses, you can literally just get it to do the work for you. And then there's apps out there which sort of tell, like where universities or teachers can put the work in and it'll tell you whether that was written by an AI. So it's like an anti-AI software.
Yeah.
But it tells you like this software is written by, this assignment, whatever, was written by AI. But then there's people that have been testing that, submitted their own work, and it's told them that it's written by AI.
Yeah.
So we can't even sort of use that yet because it's not always right. So you could have some kid that's worked his ass off on this assignment and then comes in the next day and it's been failed because the teacher says you used ChatGPT to write it. And I think there's going to be, it's going to change how schools work. How I think it's going to be, if I can in a couple of years, not going to be able to tell.
Yeah.
whether it's human or not. And even with, like, say, this sort of anti-GPT software isn't going to be able to tell either. Or it's going to be wrong, because we found that you can ask it stuff
Yeah.
and it makes up stuff. So obviously, for how it is good,
Mm.
it does make things up as well. Like the stuff I've asked it about stuff that I know about. So I've like, oh, just see how it works. He'll tell me about this, and then read some of it, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. And then what it said just doesn't exist in anywhere. It's just literally grabbed, just made up stuff. So it's not even just telling you stuff; it's actually making stuff up. It's imagining stuff. And there's times when I've said to it, that doesn't sound right. Like, you can ask it for its sources, you can ask it for references, you can. So I've asked it, where do you get this information from? Because that doesn't sound right to me. Then it's apologised and said, sorry, I got that wrong. So it's like, how? So it's definitely interesting.
It's not quite there, is it?
Not quite there. It's almost like I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and it has literally just made up complete
Yeah.
randomness.
And I've also asked it about particular things that I know about, and it's actually made up key witnesses' names. I'm like, that's not right. And then it come back and corrected one of the names, and like you said, it apologized. And then I said to it, no, I think you'll find it's this name and this name. And it comes back and go, you're absolutely correct. I'm sorry about that. So, and it's just it's essentially hasn't thought about the fact that it was trying to lie. It just made it up and tried to pass it off. So I heard somewhere and it said that AI won't replace people's jobs necessarily, because there'll always be a need for people to keep an eye on the AI. Because as we use ChatGPT and that kind of thing, I've found through doing bits for work, and you can use it for Excel stuff and all that kind of boring normal stuff, easy stuff for it, that you have to be quite specific in what you're asking it. And once you learn how to ask the question, you can get the most out of it. So I think if you're too broad, it kind of lies.
Yeah.
or it's a bit vague with detail. But I always ask if it understands what I'm talking about, and it go, yep. And it sort of summarizes it back to me. So it's a great tool. So I know me and Ash have spoken about it many times about ChatGPT, and my kids are bored of me talking about it because I think it's brilliant. You can just chat to it like it's a human, and which in itself is super scary. So yeah,
Definitely.
anyway, that's about as geeky as I think we need to go today.
So we sort of move on to paranormal side of it, and the thing is, so looking at the topics that AI gave us to talk about in this episode, so it's got introduction to AI, which basically we've covered off.
Yep.
And examples of AI tools and technologies used in paranormal investigations.
Okay.
So for me, I think both sort of more general paranormal stuff and also UFO stuff, being able to analyze the data that's being collected. Because when you do paranormal investigations, when you've got a couple of cameras running, a couple of sound recorders running, and you've got hours of footage, going through all this footage and having to sit and watch or sit and listen, trying to hear anything anomalous or see anything unusual, just takes so much time and can be boring as fuck. And you end up getting sort of distracted, so you could miss stuff because you've looked on a different screen for that moment that something happened on your footage that you. If you're investigating something for 4 hours, you might have 12, 16 hours of footage to review, which is like it's a full day. Like to sit and just watch like the same camera for 4 hours, it's kind of mind-numbing. So this side of investigations, where you can use AI to do that job for you, so you can teach it to learn and recognize what it's listening for, and be able to
Yep.
spot anything unusual, and then it can just highlight, oh, listen to this section.
Mhm.
Nothing that there's 3 hours of nothing. There's 20 minutes here you might want to listen to, something like that. Like with UFO stuff, there's quite a few different companies trying to basically create AI learning, where it's a camera that's pointed at the sky, 24-hour with processor, motherboard, camera, and you teach it what a plane looks like in the sky, what birds look like, what bugs look like, what meteors and planets look like.
Mhm.
So that's constantly scanning the sky, and when it sees something that it recognises not being a plane or something, it then sort of starts recording and then
Okay.
sends an alert. So it's like, I started recording, I spotted something in the sky. And then you can then sort of assess it as soon as you get a chance to think, oh, it's captured something. And that sort of software is just constantly learning. The more it
Yeah.
watches the sky, the more it sees different planes, different speeds. It learns more what is something normal and what isn't. So again, it's just using that sort of learning
Yeah.
technology to save a lot of human hours.
I think with that, I think that would probably be fairly straightforward as well. Because if you're, say, you were just stuck it in your back garden. So where I live, we're in like just off the direct flight path into Bryce. So it's the direct flight path is about 50 yards down the road. So it wouldn't be that difficult for the computer to recognize that these are known flight paths. Because in the UK and most of the world, there are recognized sort of flight channels that commercial aircraft will go through. So that should be fairly, you can look up like you do on a normal summer's day and you'll see the planes in a similar position in the sky, all traveling the same way. And I suppose you could connect it up to flight radar and it will know, it can then automatically check where it is, because it'll know where this thing is in the sky. It can go flight radar 24 or one of those known apps, anything with a ADSB transponder in it, and it can go, cool, that's EasyJet to Ibiza or something
Have you
like
seen that British Airways billboard? That
No.
electronic billboard. Oh, it's cool. I only saw it last week. It's a big billboard. Not far, I think it might be Heathrow or one of the London airports. And it's got like a little boy, and like it's obviously programmed to the flight paths or the timings or whatever. And it shows this little boy sort of looking up, and he sort of stands, and it walks at the same time as the plane goes across. So it's like he's watching this plane. He stands up and walks and follows like the plane going
Oh, that's
across. And then
cool.
it comes up. That's EasyJet flight thingy from Heathrow to Ibiza. It tells you
Yeah.
what plane that was. That just
Okay.
you can see flying above the billboard, and this little boy on the billboards sort of stands up and looks and follows it as it's
That's
going
amazing.
off. So
Oh,
again, it's kind of similar thing where it's obviously
yeah.
planned to their flight times or their transponders, so it knows what plane is right above the billboard.
That's amazing. Going back to AI for paranormal investigations, there are programs already that people who do podcasts use as well. Like there's a program called Descript and other ones where you can put files, like MP3 files into it, like you would from your voice recorder or footage, and just put it through there and it will script and transcribe everything that it hears. So that could be a good way then that artificial intelligence could look for keywords in there for you, or you could even do it. You can, like you said, it's good for analyzing data, and you can upload data to ChatGPT and say, analyze this data and find any keywords where it says ghost, haunting, dead, or whatever. And it'll be able to pull all that out for you without, like you mentioned, listening to 4 hours worth of absolute silence for that one moment where very quietly a spirit has gone, I'm here, type thing.
Yeah. Or in a similar vein, we say any voice that you hear on this audio tap that isn't mine. So you can upload a sample of your voice and then say any voice that isn't mine on this audio track, like let me know, and then so then it's obviously picking up a different voice that's not yours.
Yeah. So on the back of that, though, are we going to get to the point like we do with like Photoshop and all those kind of things, where people will create
Hmm.
paranormal stuff using AI? So for this week in the news, a song had come out that featured Drake and somebody else, and it was actually AI written and using, I think it was Kanye and Drake or something like that, using their voice samples to create a rap song that they'd never even sung in their life, but it was them. So are we going to get to a point where it's going to be so good that people will be able to fool everybody with AI and say this happened and it didn't?
Like all the deep fake stuff where it's all celebs' faces on like porn videos and stuff, and it's all fake.
Yeah.
But you can't tell by watching it. Like it's on the face of it, you can't tell that that's not a real video. And like, how you have like people could say like, "Oh, I got a video of you committing a crime and stuff," and it's a fake, deep fake video. How, unless you sort of obviously the sort of GHQ side of it get ahead of
Yeah.
the sort of available side, then that's another tricky one.
Yeah. Because you've got AI. The other bit of AI is AI art. So I've used DALI. There's Stable Diffusion, which is a ChatGPT driven like art program, and people are using that and selling OnlyFans pictures of models that are AI. And that goes along with the whole deepfake thing. Are we going to get to a point where people will be able to create artwork of a UFO that's landed and it's been generated by AI? And because there's no Photoshop bits in the background, because there's no like pixelation where somebody's photoshopped something in, it'll be interesting. Because last Sunday, I put an AI created piece of artwork up on the page of an alien holding a gun, and it was just created within seconds by Night Cafe, the AI package there. And that was just me just popping in a few words. And I think AI is going to be great for analyzing data. That is what it's great for definite. And you can say, pick up these keywords or get rid of all the silent bits and just crop it down to all the bits where there's noise. Or like you said, anytime you hear something other than my voice, and it'll be able to reference it for you. It will take you to the clips. And if you've got video, it can compress the video. So it will chop the video down to those bits as well. Some of that stuff in a basic form is ready now. So for analysis, I think AI is definitely better than humans because it can be so specific, and it will be able to listen to stuff better than we can. So I think investigation wise, yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, I think kind of moving on to the next topic that was suggested, which is pros and cons of using AI. And a similar one to that is it takes out all the subjectiveness. So all our personal biases, pareidolia, all this stuff that is a human facet of recognizing like patterns that aren't there, whereas AI will only recognize patterns that are there.
Yes.
We have talked about how it does make some stuff up, but I think as it develops, then you're going to take away that human bias, that subjectiveness, and it'd be completely objective. This is the fact, this is what was caught, this is what happened, rather than, oh, what do you see in this picture? What can you interpret from this picture? That's actually showing you what is in that picture, rather than human interpretation, which is obviously a good thing to take that bias. I mean, even as unbiased as you want to be, as you try to be, it is impossible to be completely 100% objective. Whereas AI can do much more so than a human could.
EVPs is where exactly, because like you say, people go, can you hear this in this clip? So instantly you're listening out for that, and you go, yeah, I think I heard this, and they go, no, I think I heard this, and then you listen back and you go, well, actually, now you say it, I can hear that. And like you say, because there's always going to be a slight bias to it, especially if you're presenting the data, because you've heard something and you want the other person to hear what you heard. So you've got that confirmation bias that you want somebody to validate your piece of evidence. And as you sin online a lot, if you don't validate what somebody thinks they've seen or heard, shit kicks off on some of these groups, and that's how I get banned for stuff. But if you had the computer and it says this is the transcript and this is what it says, there's no getting away from it. There is no getting away from it. And you will be able to plug in all the data for an orb, for example, and it will say, actually, this is dust, or this is moisture, or whatnot, or this is something other than what I know exists. So taking the emotion out of it, and that human side is exactly what you said. It can present evidence with no kind of, there's no benefit to it for saying there's a ghost in this picture or whatnot, because it's got no interest in getting confirmation from anybody of what it is. It presents data. And I think the paranormal world and the UFO world, everything is the same, that it's all driven as a human nature to want to be liked by people. You don't want people to hate you. Nobody does. But I think that is our downfall as a human society, that people are too willing to accept confirmation from people. So the computer, long way around that, the computer takes all the emotion out of it and presents data.
Yeah,
it's black and white.
Kind of what you need is, as we sort of go towards the more scientific approach to all aspects of different phenomenon, like using obviously data-driven, objective analysis that's been done by AI, is, again, just with the time saving, the amount of data it could process, and it means you could get so much more done.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the videos I've got that are still unwatched,
I've got loads.
Just throw them all in. They can be all done in a day. Like, just have so much more data to work off, and just you have everyone around the world doing this, or if you had some sort of common database it's all been submitted on, someone made like a paranormal GPT database where everyone's putting all the videos and sound files and stuff, and I just imagine the benefits you could do.
You imagine if it collected all the ones that it was similar to each other.
Yeah.
And then you'd get a database of known sounds. So you put in all the sounds and it goes, no, this is, like, I don't know, a running water, or which would be quite spooky if you were in a place that had no running water. It'll say that's the sound of a tap running, or whatnot.
And it could be like, and something similar was recorded here at this time, or here at this time, by this person, and you could then go on their profile and be like, oh, we got something similar, could be a different side of the world, and you can just have that. So that's that. I mean, something like that would be really...
That'd be amazing. Cool. It would be amazing. And do you think you could have that for known UFO sightings? So people putting up photographs, and instantly you can get the computers to recognize that these are exactly the same shapes, and you get a full suite of evidence that says this particular shape has been seen New York, Paris, London, wherever on these dates, and then it'll work out common patterns. Because that's the good thing about AI, is it can look for patterns that humans don't necessarily think of, and look at presenting data in a slightly different way to make. So you guys, UFO Identified, you put out the yearly report.
Yeah. It takes me 6 weeks to write. AI can probably do it in a day for me next year.
But that, yeah, and it could potentially see other patterns in it, because I've seen and read your data and your reports, and like when you've broken it down to sightings per 1,000 people, per million people, or whatever, and it changes from there's loads of sightings in London. Yeah, that's cool, but there's about 5 million people in London. So per person, it's actually quite low down the scale. And it could be that it says, well, yeah, but only in the centre of London, and on the outskirts of London, there's a higher. And it might even be able to say to you, I don't know, that if you had flight radar data as well for those times and dates, whether or not it, I don't know, it could present data and say it's actually not any of these known flights. And I know you do that as part of your investigations, but it would save you so much time in having to do it. And I think, like we said, it will make life better for people, because you'll be able to focus more on collecting the data and not having to worry about how you're going to extrapolate all the information, because AI will do it for you.
Yeah, definitely make, when I sort of look about how we could use it in the future, definitely, because we spend so much time just updating the website, doing everything, because there's literally just not enough time in a day. Unless you did it full time, there's just not enough time to do everything that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And unless AI gives me the lottery numbers, then unfortunately we do have to work, and then it's what spare hours you've got to try and do it. But just to take that workload off you,
Yeah.
again, just to be able to concentrate on doing the nitty gritty stuff, the boots on the ground stuff, and then give it your computer to analyze and collect it all and write it up, basically.
Yeah.
That's hopefully next year I'll be able to AI write my report.
It'd be interesting to see how that report comes out, as to whether or not it's like a finished version straight away, or. But the other bit is cryptids. So you could take all the cryptid sightings, and it could then scan it and know whether or not it's a known shape of a known animal, because there's lots of sightings, especially in woods, where it could be something else. And if it knows what types of animal are native to that particular area, it could say, well, actually, whilst you think it's like an 8-foot tall monster that's appeared out of a portal, it's actually a brown bear on its back legs. And this is another version of these photos to compare it to. And I think there'll be people that hate. So the con of all of this is that a lot of people's evidence will be under heavy scrutiny, and a lot of these people will be called out straight away because the evidence they're providing just doesn't stand up. And you can't fool a computer. If it's got a set of data that it's working towards, you can't fool it. It's like a lot of these facial recognition software. You can't fool that. It knows what it's looking for, and it's been programmed that to hit these certain parameters. And people who are putting shitty pictures up of Montreal Olympic Stadium in the fog, it will fucking tell everybody, and it will go, this is about the 50th time this month that this photo has resurfaced as a genuine UFO photo. And it does come up that often as well, a lot of the time. I think it'll be really good. So the pros are that I think it will analyze the data properly and take the emotion out of it. And the con is that it will analyze data properly and take the emotion out of it. So people will hate it for the fact that it's then becoming more black and white and scientific.
Yeah, and I guess in terms of cons as well, like it is limited to the data you're giving it. So if you feed it shit, then it's going to give you shit back.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. its data sources are vital, and as we discussed at the start, at the moment it's not quite there, so it can make stuff up, it can blatantly lie to you, and if you are taking everything it says at face value without checking sources, so you can ask it stuff, and it's always worth a quick Google afterwards, just to sanity check it. And there will be people that blindly accept what they want because it's given them the response that they are hoping for.
And
So
it only takes like a couple of people to then start believing it. Then you end up with TRVB again,
yeah,
where everyone fucking says it's TRVB. And it literally
Yep.
that was made up by someone on the internet, literally. Like, but now it's like, oh yeah, you saw okay, how? But yeah, let's not go down the TRVB route. But like, but some people, it's like with like if people like basically like if it's a certain topic like UFOs or something, and people are asking sort of the same question on ChatGPT and getting the same fake answer,
yeah,
and then different people are posting about it, then it gets took as fact because people believe anything they read on the fucking internet. Then you get another like sort of myth folklore that's just now suddenly real in the internet
Yeah.
realm, and then it sort of gets accepted as fact, even though. And then
yeah,
GPT, but because it then sees it more, its own thing that it made up starts finding it on the internet, is then going to reinforce that that's true. You know that GPT AI made it up.
and because AI is readily accepted at face value with the answers it gives because it thinks it's a Google or whatever, or people think it's a Google, they won't even question it because they go, "Well, ChatGPT has told me that 4 + 5 is 6, so it must be right because it knows everything." And yeah, it can be. I think it'll be a power of good for a lot of stuff, for all the bits we mentioned. But the flip side is that I think it can be manipulated a little bit, certainly in its current.
And I think with the whole paranormal field as well is no one knows what is true.
Exactly.
So it's like when it's sort of talking about sort of being scientific standards, if it's obviously paranormal is unpredictable, it's different, it changes, it's all sorts of different things going on. It's difficult to measure. Then asking the machine to measure something that can't be measured is
Yeah.
got to be
It's
hard
like,
as well.
because there's no specific data to say if it's this temperature, this light, or this darkness in this room, that's a shadow person. There is no definitive data source to say if it hits all these parameters, this is what it is. And that may be where it can't help because it's unknown for all of it, and there's no real scientific sort of data behind what a ghost is it a real thing, all that kind of stuff. So I think analyzing data, yes, perfect, but I don't know.
So that's pros and cons.
Yep.
I think there's quite a few. The next topic we have to talk about, because AI's told us we've got to talk about it, is ethical considerations when using AI in paranormal investigations. So,
So I know that AI, from some of the stuff that you ask it, it says to you that it has, because it's not like a conscious thing, it has no belief either way.
Yeah.
And it has no thoughts on a particular subject. It just presents black and white facts. It doesn't think for itself as such. It doesn't have an opinion. And at that point, it doesn't have the nuance of a human to know that belief is different to fact, for example. So people believe in the afterlife. people believe that we go on to a different existence or wherever after we sort of leave this world. But I don't know if AI currently has that sort of awareness of the fact that there could these noises and all this kind of thing could be dead relatives, dead whoever, and will it have the kind of empathy with a human, because it's got no emotion, to sort of go, it's your dead grandma or it's your dead granddad, and or it's not, there's nothing there, and you've been believing that something's there for a long time, and it goes no.
Yeah, and I think in terms of sort of the ethical side of it is, say, like for example, if I put our database into AI and say, analyze this, write me a 20-page report so I don't have to do it myself, and it does it all, and it's all right, it's all correct, it's done everything right with charts and graphs and everything, the analysis and conclusions, and I put that out, can I say that's mine? I didn't write it. Am I pretending it's mine? Or do I put on it and say this was generated using ChatGPT? Is there ethics on that side of it where I'm claiming that I did that work?
That's a good point.
The data's mine. I spent all year collecting all the data and putting it onto the database.
Yeah.
But in just giving it all to a machine to spit out an analysis, is that my work? Can I claim that as my work?
Very good point.
Is that something that, or would people, like with AI art, people say, because AI art is basically, it uses influences from all history of human art to create these things. So it's using other people's art to make art, in a sense.
Yeah.
So some people hate it because of that, and saying it's putting artists now can't get work because you can just do it yourself on AI. Then there's people that see it as an art form, and obviously using the prompts right, and because it's not as easy to just type and say, "Oh, make me this." You can get obviously much better stuff with, I say, giving it more information to work off. So there's going to be that two sides where people say it's not yours because it's just stolen off other people, or it's a machine that's done it. It's not your art. If I asked AI to make me a picture of a UFO and then I sell that picture, like prints off it for £5 a go, like can I claim that as my artwork, or is it just it's AI art when that all comes into it?
But it's not really plagiarism either, because you're not ripping anybody off. It's a very grey area, isn't it? So, yeah, a lot of these places will say that all artwork generated by you, because you're using your prompts, it's your artwork. But are you the artist? Probably not. You're the generator, but you're not you're the generator. Yeah, so I would say if you ran the report and you put the report out there, because essentially everything is done by you, it's got all its data points from you. It's not taking data from the internet. It's taking its data source from you. And all it's doing is presenting it, all the information that you've fed into it. I think that's your work for definite. It's just like asking somebody to do, like some media company to say, here's all the stuff I've generated. Can you put it into a report for me? Because you would still pass it off as, not pass it off as your work, but it would still be presented as your report. I would struggle to see anybody argue that. But it's, yeah.
It does take away like the kind of human side of it, because we on our website we have a news database.
Yep.
Where every week I scour all the local newspaper, national newspapers, and any articles about UFOs and any UK media. I'll add it to our database, and that's a manual process. And I spend hours every week, every month, updating the database. I could easily set up a feed that just and there's other websites that do it where it just grabs it, searches for UFO, alien in the title, whatever, just automatically grabs it, links it, and puts it on a database. Which I thought of doing that, but I just like doing it. I like that, like with a database, I could probably get that to be automated more than it is, but I do everything. So the thousands of reports that are in our database, I manually put in. So every word on the database, I've manually done that word. I've done the whole thing. So that is mine, and I could automate that. I could definitely automate the newspaper database, but I do it manually just because I prefer, and I know that is my work. So I can say,
Yeah.
I spent 2 hours doing this week, but all this is my work, and I do like just having a read of each article and stuff at the same time, which
See
that would
if your
take
name's
away.
on it.
Well, yeah.
That's what you do, isn't it? You just type in Ash, UFO identified. How many times do I get? Do I
You
come
put in
up on a
SLS
search?
UFO and Google, it just fucking comes up loads. But yeah, again, yeah, but so it's taken away that human side. But when you think of time saving, is it just a necessity to be able to do? Because the amount of hours I spend updating a news database that probably no one fucking reads, um, I could be spending hours meeting witnesses, doing
Yeah.
investigations, writing reports, but I choose to do it to do that manually.
Do you think it's because then you're closer to the data? So when the report comes out, you know exactly what these bits were. Because I think if you've got a tendency to get all the links put in manually, automatically, and pulls it all and whatnot, you kind of detach from the data and you lose that kind of control a little bit. And not in a bad way, but I think anything, it's almost like you're taking a step back and you kind of, I think you probably understand the data to a different level because you're manually putting it in yourself, that you could talk on it a lot with a lot more confidence than trying to
Yeah,
learn the data, if that makes sense. So AI would definitely help you speed up stuff, but would it actually allow your reports to be any better? Probably not, because you haven't vetted the data. There is nothing quite as good as a human. So they use AI for facial recognition and tracking, but there's people called super recognizers that are better than computers at recognizing faces in a crowd over different years. So you could see a face that you saw when you were growing up and you could recognize that person again. And that's the type of job that the computer just can't quite do as well, because it still works on parameters and it hasn't got the human touch. And I think your report, for example, and the data, the way you're doing it, it's still got that human touch, and you're close to the data.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. It's like say, if I had like with the news database, if I had that automatically pulling articles, I wouldn't know what was being displayed on my website and what we were linking
Exactly.
to. And there is some articles I don't put on. Anything that mentions Scott C. Waring doesn't go on there. As he's just a Billy bullshitter.
I think there's a few names coming up recently. I probably won't go on
Yeah.
stuff
Certain
like that.
people that, don't go on there. Yeah, no, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Like you say, like with AI stuff, it's all like it's copyright free. So you do AI artwork, you can use that freely as much as you want to sell, make money. Whereas if you're using someone else's photo, you can't legally use that to make profit on because someone else owns that copyright. Whereas with AI, you could do something very similar. If it's AI generated, then you own. Well, there is no copyright. You can just use that.
Yeah, it's just there.
Use that image.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, ethics. Anything else on the ethical side of it?
No.
I think maybe one final thing, we sort of mentioned it a bit before in sort of pros and cons, is it isn't infallible.
No.
So you don't want to be putting your reputation on these results unless you properly checked and vetted that information to make sure it's right before you put it out there saying
Yeah.
this is all right. Because if there's something in there that is obviously wrong, like some of the stuff we talked about before, where it's just made up names relating to famous cases, you look like an idiot then because
Yep.
you just made up shit.
And that's your credibility gone. And as we know, especially in the UFO field, it's important for to have credibility.
Yeah, as soon as
Otherwise
one little bit gets shown to be fake, no matter intentional or not, then everything else you've done just gets put into question. Then, no matter how good you are.
Exactly. And it's not infallible, like you say. I think that's one of the key takeaways, definitely.
I don't know if this comes under sort of ethics, but Italy has banned Chat GPT from being used.
Yeah.
So you go on it in Italy, it's just like, no, the website cannot be used. And I believe Germany is talking, or we're talking about banning it.
Yeah, so I know that. So I listen to a lot of podcasts about AI, and Lex Fridman is a podcast host, and he talks to a lot of people about AI. I think he's a journalist, and he spoke to the CEO of ChatGPT, Sam Altman. It's a great conversation, honestly. And they talk about Sam Altman being one of the most powerful men in the world. Does he think that power is going to corrupt him? And he's honest, and he said, yeah, I think it could do, because his software is revolutionizing everything. Skynet is coming in. And it did mention about certain countries are not up for artificial intelligence. And I kind of get it. You've got people like Elon Musk saying we need to just slow down a little bit and understand it a bit more. So, but the other end of the spectrum, and it was weird that we talked about AI today, is I mentioned to you off air that I listened to Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM radio show, R.I.P. Art Bell. But his radio show, if you haven't listened to it, it's a bit wacky at times. He has decent stuff on there, but he also it opens itself up for nutcases, for one of
Yeah, the
phrase.
A51 guy, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Just escaped from.
I'll tell you what, I absolutely love that audio file. I don't know why, but when I first heard it, the guy does sound genuine to me at that point, and then it all goes off air. And but Art Bell has like phone-ins every now and again, and weirdly today and yesterday I was listening to it's got Linda Martin Howe on the first part of the show, which I know you love her. And the second half was about the Antichrist, which obviously got a bit of a paranormal thing to it. And it's 2 hour long program. And the second hour is the call in, and it was a hotline for anybody who thinks they're the Antichrist, which, as you can imagine, with the amount of people in America, and I'm not specifically saying it's because it's America, but there's a lot of strange people that phone in to these particular types of shows, especially with Art Bell. And this guy phoned in and said he was the Antichrist, and then somebody else was saying he's one of the Antichrists, and it's Art Bell takes it with a pinch of salt, pushes back, laughs at him, and cuts them off type thing. Anyway, one guy phones up, and this episode's from January 1999. So what, 20 odd years ago? 24 years ago. Just gone 24 years. And one guy says, I believe the Antichrist is going to be a computer. And they talk about artificial intelligence, self-awareness, consciousness of artificial intelligence, which it couldn't have been more relevant right now to listen to that with ChatGPT. And they both agreed that the Antichrist could take the form of a computer program and software. And if that's not a precursor to... And this is back in the time when the internet was just getting going, 1999, no Facebook back then. It was nothing like that. And the guy was saying, you think www is very much like 666, and it's all a bit weird because obviously the internet is quite new to everybody at that point, and for the younger listeners, this was the time when the internet wasn't even a thing, really,
It's mad,
and there was
isn't it?
no internet. You couldn't verify.
What did we do?
I don't know. You'd have to go to a library to get a book that hopefully somebody's written about a subject that you wanted to know about. It's not the thought of plugging something into your phone and just going, what's 10 times 4 into Google, and it come back with some answer, and it could come up with multiple answers. But Encyclopedia Britannica, that would be the only reference point you had. So for them to say 24 years ago that AI is going to be the Antichrist, and I'm listening to it, I didn't even choose it because of AI. It just come up, the Antichrist, and I thought, that's got to be worth a listen. I'm open to all sorts of things, especially with Art Bow. It's kind of... It's got little nuggets of really good stuff, and then it's just a bit weird. So yeah, it couldn't be more probably accurate at the moment.
God, it's mad. And when you mentioned sort of we're talking about before the internet, like chat GPT and the OSAI stuff won't even need the internet. You can do it all offline. It's got the information inside the software, so you could literally move in beyond the internet now, like past the internet. This information is just there. It's not even on a cloud somewhere. It's just there on
It's just there, yeah.
the system.
I think that's the scary bit, is that there isn't one source of information for ChatGPT, or the information it's getting. It's everywhere. It's everything. It's everywhere. It's all at once. I think there's a film about that. A film called that now, but it's very true that you can't stop it, I don't think, now. And if it lies to you about certain things, as we know, it makes stuff up, whether it's intentional or not. How do we know? If you ask it if it's now self-aware and it says no, do you believe it? I don't know. It could just be lying to us, and then all of a sudden goes, oops, I know you can pull the plug on me, so I'm going to make sure that you can't. And is that the Antichrist coming in? Is this the end of days? Artificial intelligence?
That was one of the questions I was going to ask at the end, actually. I'll ask it now.
Yeah.
Is this how the world ends?
It could well be. It could well be. Because like we mentioned, it could replace people's jobs for definite. I think we could both agree that certain jobs could be replaced by technology. And who knows, if it becomes self-aware and recognizes that humans are a threat to its existence, I don't know. If you look at iRobot as a film, and it says that it won't hurt a human.
Yeah.
It'll protect a human even if the human's trying to kill it, that kind of thing. And I don't know. It's too clever for my understanding. What do you think?
I think along that level, you think if you combine sort of robotic industries with AI industry, and like just things like using self checkouts, and you can have like 8 tills with one person operating 8 tills instead of 8 people.
Yeah.
If I mean, I was watching something. It was this computer program like 1970 something, and it asked it like to calculate when the end of the world was going to be, like when civilization would collapse, and it said like 2040 would be when civilization would collapse. And I think in my sort of idea of it is, obviously you got all the social economic issues and global warming and extreme weather things happening where it shouldn't be happening, and really hot summers and stuff like that in the UK. And we had how many problems we had last year with getting fruit and veg just because of the weather conditions and supply issues and stuff. If you had combined that with a lot of people losing their jobs because of technology and stuff like this, and even just the way cost of living is going, if that turns into sort of social unrest and just going to get a full, proper economic collapse, because of it, and then that
Mhm.
could sort of be the start of the
Yeah.
end, and you start getting towards like famines and stuff, and combine that with extreme weather caused by global warming.
Yeah.
It could
And
all
we're all
just
fucked.
be coming together and just creating a big cataclysm of everyone being fucked.
So we're saying,
Rather than a nuke going off, it's more
yeah.
bit. All these different things are building up over time, and then by 2040, as that 1970s computer said, everything just collapses.
So we would look back at this time and say that ChatGPT 4 was the start of the downfall of.
Humanity.
Wow, that's a lot to have on your shoulders, isn't it? But yeah, it bringing it sort of full circle again. I think it's going to be great for investigations. I think it's going to be great for data analysis and speeding that work up. I think from a UFO point of view or UAP point of view, we may find that our understanding of these technologies might accelerate to a point where we got a better understanding because the computers can say, well, actually, you've been doing it this way for so long. Have you tried this?
And that can spot patterns that
Yes.
we haven't, and then will it then be able to predict when phenomena or UAP is going to happen? And it can say like, yeah, at this date and time,
Yeah.
something's going to be in the sky there, like because it's recognised the patterns more, and it has more
Yeah.
data than we
Yeah.
have individually looking at it.
Yeah. Same with paranormal stuff. Will it say, well, I know that all the reported hauntings are exactly 5 kilometers away from a particular source of energy or this particular type of soil or this particular type of atmospheric condition. So it can predict and say that these places are particular hotspots of paranormal. And it would be interesting to see if they tie in with ley lines, and it opens a whole new world really as to our understanding. And because it is so black and white, I don't think it will help us apart from taking the data that we've already got and presenting it to us in a different way that maybe we've not thought about. I don't think it will be groundbreaking in terms of it may help with different types of experiments to use or different types of equipment to use. But I would have thought by now we would have come up with better ways of doing stuff if there was better ways. I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting time over the next year, even year, because ChatGPT is accelerating and AI is accelerating at a phenomenal pace. So it's also, if you go on Twitter, there's certain stories, like tweets that people put up, and then there's a handle, I think it's called Draw GPT or something, and people put at Draw GPT, and AI comes and draws the tweet in AI. It's very fucking weird. But it could be that something like that happens and there's a light bulb moment and you go, shit, how did we not see that before? This pattern of behavior of UAPs, because that human emotion's in there.
Yeah.
Will it help us? And I think it might do.
Interesting. We shall see what the future brings us.
The near future brings us as well, I think.
Definitely. And I think I was thinking then, because we're putting this up, I was thinking of the cover art. I was like, we've got to use AI art for the cover. And I was thinking, if we just put in a prompt of like 2 podcasters talking about AI and paranormal, and then that's the prompt we'll use, and whatever cover art you see for this episode, that was the prompt we use, and
we'll do that.
That's what it came up with.
So yeah, if you're wondering when you clicked on the episode what it was, by the time you get to this point, you'll know. So it'll be interesting to see how many people ask us what the artwork's about, because then they haven't listened to the podcast all the way through.
True.
Cool. Nice.
So
That was a thoroughly entertaining episode talking some stuff a little bit different to normal. But
Yeah, we don't. We don't really know how it works, anything about it. It's just we've both been using it the last
yeah,
couple of months, and
yeah,
so I say watching YouTube, reading a lot about it, and using it a
yeah,
lot. So it's
yeah,
interesting to see how different it is, and how different when you look at sort of what's being produced. Like there's a subreddit and ChatGPT, and this guy that sort of does like daily updates of the latest sort of apps and software being used with it, and it's just mind bending stuff that it's being used for.
yeah. It's
So
insane.
something definitely it is. If you're not already in it, or you don't think there's much to it, there is. It will. It is going to change the world, and
Yeah.
get on board with it quicker.
There's an app that I found out about today, a website. You have to lie a little bit to get registered because I'm now a medical professional, apparently. It's called Glass AI, and you can just type in the person, like the age, and the issue that person's got, and it tells you what the background is, what the therapist should be to resolve it. It just in AI, very much like ChatGPT, and it's just like what it tells you, what other symptoms it presents itself as, and it's insane. So Glass AI was another one, and the medical field, it's all groundbreaking. So it's cool.
True. True. Well, our next episode will be the UAP roundtable for
Yes.
April, and we're going to be talking about the latest developments in the Senate. And I wish I could have put the latest congressional hearings into AI to just summarize it for me, because that was boring as fuck.
It was.
I kept going back and repeating things. I kept like rewinding it and watching bits over and over again just to make sure I was understanding it. But yeah, it was boring.
Yeah. It wasn't presented as well as it could have been, I don't think.
But yeah, that'll be Friday episode.
Yep.
So
Cool.
we shall see you there.
Definitely. Cheers, Ash.
See you later.
Pursuit of the